Welcome back to Lyle's Garage, everybody. Today we're going to be working on a 1985 Suzuki gs700es. This bike was made in 1 year only, and this bike hasn't been ran in a really long time. The registration sticker, I think, was 97 on it. Yeah, so maybe it ran in 98. I don't know. Maybe somebody wrote it illegally for a few years, but it's safe to say that at least 24 years it hasn't been ridden or probably even turned on. We're going to do something a little different. This bike, I'm not going to do a full restoration. I would just like to get the bike running. I would like to drive it, but not necessary. I just want to get it running and then sell it. I got a little bit of a hoarding problem where I've got too many bikes. I just cleaned the garage, so it doesn't look like I have too many bikes, but usually there's none of this walking space. I got the gt750 that I'm working on. I'm still in the middle of the engine with that. I'm gonna have to ship off the crank, and so I'm just gonna take a break from that for a bit while I'm waiting for the parts to come, and I need something to occupy my time. So I pulled this out of the shed in the backyard, and we're going to do that. I also have the SL350. Just real quick, we got a new bike that I'm probably going to do either a restoration or just a revive on. And it's a 69 Sportster made by a company called Harley Davidson. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. And I also have all my other bikes. I got my Sportster that I didn't do a video for, but I just like redid everything, you know, the seat and all that kind of crap and lights. And then I got the CB550, the orange one, and I got the gold SL350. And then we got bikes elsewhere. Basically, I'm a hoarder, and I'm trying to change my ways. I started like a year ago trying to unhoard everything, but the problem is the more that people find out that you're into this stuff, the more they give me these bikes. So I got a Ninja that somebody gave me in the shed that we might work on someday. But anyways, I'm just going to try and get this thing running. Of course, that's what I say now. Anyways, we're going to do this video a little different. Instead of doing the twitchy time lapse with the royalty-free music from my app, we're just going to do a TV show where we get this guy running, and you have to listen to me talk. So enough of me. Let's get back into the bike. Some of the good things about it are the bike is fairly complete. It looks like the side covers are missing, but they're actually here. They're just down there because they're not fitting right. All the fairings are pretty nice, except for I think it was this one. No, that one I just popped off a little. It's this piece over here is missing a tab. Right there, the one for that little rubber grommet that my finger's tapping on. So that little tab is actually came with the bike, and that's what that is, I believe. So we got a little strappage, breakage. Oh, just some wear and tear. There's lots of weird dirt all over this thing. I don't know what this stuff is, but that's not the black faded. That's some sort of a powder. So I don't know if there was a fire at one point and this is like a fire hydrant stuff or what, but I didn't want to clean it off so it looked really gross for the video. And then at the end we can power wash it and take some steel wool to all the shiny bits, and then we do a before and after for the dramatic effect. Oh, so this is a 4-cylinder bike. There's a bunch of the private information I probably shouldn't put on there. I think the exhaust pipes will just probably shine right back up with some steel wool. Yeah, that looks pretty good still. I don't feel like there's critters living in there yet, but there could be. Oh, okay, this is the worst part of the whole bike. The brakes obviously don't work because that's what happens when you have disc brakes and the bike sits forever. The juice just sucks up water first and then rusts, and then the juice disappears and just leaves behind rust and crap. These have that weird thing that Suzuki was messing around with where I think it was to keep the front from diving when you hit the brakes real hard on the front. There's some sort of a slave master system happening here. And I'm really hoping that I can just get the bike off my hands without ever having to touch any of this. So if you came here because you're looking for some answers to this Pandora's box, I hope that you're not going to get it in this video. I really do. But you never know. Something might happen that causes me to have to open that up, and then you might, you know, I should say we might all learn something about that. But we can hope not. There's funsies here. I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm assuming that it's probably has something to do with the missing parts, which are the turn signals. So there's supposed to be some really ugly turn signals right here, and they're not there. We could probably get that cleared up again with some elbow grease. And oh, it's got a key. So that's pretty neat. The key actually works too. It's not just some other random key. The one thing I did do already is I came in here and I lubed this up because this wasn't coming off. So I put some WD in that keyhole. And now we got that. This is going to be tough to show you guys, but it's not really nice, but it's also not ugly in there. So it smells really bad though. Moving right along, there is some built-in air conditioning vents right here. So the battery maybe gets air. I don't understand why the seat's like that, but this is really hard. So I don't think it's been shaped that way. I think it came that way. What else do we got? We got lots of dirt. I'm really excited to get that off. Anybody else out there feel like that? You know, when you get something that you just know, like one good power wash with some quadruple aught steel wool will just make this thing so nice. Like this kind of crap right here. All that looks so horrible, but when I'm done washing it, it'll look amazing. The motor's painted, which I usually think is disgusting, but this one's really nice. And okay, time for the most positive, I'd say, feature of the bike is, check this out. It's a little stiff, but the chokes are actually still free. At least on this outer one, right? And then best of all, watch this. So the throttle is not stuck. There is no battery in this, so we can't get any electricals yet. I did buy a battery though, so we're gonna go ahead and throw that in. I don't know if it's the right battery, so if it's wrong, I'll just delete this part, but there's all the info right there. That was from Amazon for like 40 bucks. I think it was 45. I got that one because it was returnable in case it's the wrong one. It's got these really cool handles here for stuff, you know. Nothing up here, like I've already mentioned, but I think the clutch is clutching. There's no hydraulic clutch, so that's really amazing. There is a keyhole here, and I don't know. And there's a keyhole here for the seat thing, but something's happening here with the seat thing, so we just pull this right now, and that takes the seat off. Yeah, I'll set that down. Got a couple battery screws, no battery, MIA. But we do have battery terminals. Air filters are missing. Air filter, I don't know. There is a screen in there though, so that should be good enough. We got a little cubby back here. With some paperwork and no tool bag though. Already looked in there for that. So yeah, so basically what we'll do is I'm not going to do time lapse. I'm going to try my hardest. So I'll just go ahead and I'll put the battery in and then turn the camera back on, and we'll go together to see what kind of electrical stuff we can get. All right. All right, guys, we got the battery in there. I would say that This company's battery seems pretty nice. A lot of times these screws won't reach far enough to grab the nut on the underside that they give you to stick underneath that metal post. So a lot of times I have to shove like a toothpick or a flathead screwdriver or something under there to get that nut high enough to where the bolt will reach it. And a lot of times I use a screwdriver and then I just end up grounding out the battery. This one was pretty awesome because the screws actually reached the nut, and the hole inside the post was actually covered on each side, so the nut can't just shoot out the other sides like all those other cheap batteries. I don't understand why that's so freaking tough to figure that crap out for these battery companies. I mean, if I was a battery company and my battery didn't have that, I would copy the heck out of that. Anyways, enough ranting. Let's get the key. I have no idea. Oh, it's right here in that seat thing still. All right. So let's put the key in. Should we say a little prayer first? All right, hats off. Dear Heavenly Father, thanks for all our blessings. Please bless that this thing will be easy to get running. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. All right, gentlemen, you got to say the prayer before you do the first thing. Get rid of all the bad juju. Oh, look at that. What? And we got a horn, no freaking way. We got no turn signals. I think it's because there's no turn signals on the bike. Oh, what happened to that light, though? Why did the light just turn off? What did I do? Ah, dang. Oh, there's high beam. Oh, it's just the headlight itself is going bad. Okay, well that's not so bad. Can you guys see that light over there on the wall? No, but you can probably see that high beam trying to turn on right here sometimes. Oh well, that's still pretty cool. Let's see. We have absolutely nothing. No, nothing. Oh, kickstand. Yeah, it's got a kickstand sensor. Side stand. Oh no, the side stand won't. Sensor doesn't work. Dang. So there's a little sensor. I can just show you guys since you are on my mobile cellular device. And the sensor's right here. And when the kickstand goes up, it pushes that up. Oh, dang it. I'm sorry, guys. This is very strange where this kickstand sits, right by your foot. Anybody else seeing that? That's very weird. Like, why would they have put that right there? Let's scoot you back out a little, guys. That's got a lot of play in that. It's got the nut on the back, so that's been bent. So that's definitely not supposed to be there when it comes up. So yeah, should be able to just push that real hard and have this light turn off right here where it says side stand. Obviously nothing is happening there. Okay, so, oh, and the headlight's still burning. Let's just not have that happen, huh? Okay, save the battery. I'm going to figure out something to do with the switch, maybe see where the wiring goes. Oh, I really don't want to start taking this apart. I don't want to be so negative all the time, guys, but I really just wanted to hear this thing run and thought maybe throw a battery and gas in and that would be it. Oh well, wouldn't be fun if we didn't have some little gremlins or goblins or whatever the electrical problems are called. So let me figure that out, and then as soon as I can magically make it work or not work or whatever, I'll turn it back on and tell you. Okay, so I got the gas tank taken off. If you guys are new to this and you need to learn how to do this yourself, there were 2 hoses on the petcock that I just finagled off. There was a wire connected to the fuel level reader, and that wire came out and hooked up to these 2 wires down here, which was a black with a yellow stripe and black with a white. Excuse me. There was a little bit of gas in there, or there is a little bit of gas in there, so I'll have to clean that out. That's kind of last on the list right now. I did find out that the side stand sensor comes up to this little thing here. It's got a green and white and a black and white wire. And when I took the male part out and I hooked up my ohm reader, I couldn't get any readings. So nothing was changing whether the switch was in or out. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the side stand switch, and then we'll get that up to the workbench and mess around with it for a bit, see what I see, and then I'll turn the camera back on. All right, give me a sec. So I traced the wire, the green and the white and the black and white wire, through this loom, and then it came out up another loom and then went up into the back of the speedometer console. I don't know, whatever this thing's called. And I went through all of the scuzzies and everything seems fine. There's only like one thing that's a little fishy. There was a bunch of bundles taped together, kind of cheap looking, but it's all the right colors connected. So I ended up cleaning up the switch and checking it a few times, and I got it to work fine. So the switch actually on the ohm meter shows connected to unconnected every time I press the little button. So then I went back and I checked the voltage on that guy there, and yeah, I hooked up that switch back up just to see if it would work now, but it didn't. And it's got volts coming through. So I don't know. You know, we got power, we got a ground. I don't understand why it's not turning off the light. But I went ahead and I started looking on some YouTube videos of other people starting their bike, because I had a feeling that people were starting their bike on the kickstand. So I looked, and sure enough, people are starting their bike with the kickstand. And one video even showed the gauge cluster, and I could see definitely that this kickstand light was on the gauges when he started the bike. So I don't think everybody has kickstand switch deletes on their bike. So I think this bike can start when it's on its kickstand. I think it just has an idiot light to show you. The next thing I was really looking for is this. I felt like this was supposed to pop out farther. So I kept looking for information on that, and sure enough, that same video where that guy showed his gauge cluster with the kickstand light, I could see that he's actually physically pushing a button like 8 millimeters in, and this one only goes like maybe a millimeter or 2. So I think the next thing I'm gonna have to do is take open that. I shoved a screwdriver in there a little bit and started, and it stripped right away. So I think I'll probably go take my time to put this all back together and put that back on now that I know that it's not the kickstand issue. I don't know, I might leave it off. But I got to get that off and take a look at this switch and see if I can't get that switch to start working the right way. Okay, so I made a new revelation, I guess you could say. I had decided that it might be this start button that was smashed all the way in. Usually the start buttons come out like, you know, that much, 4 to 6 millimeters, and this one was smashed all the way in, flush with that body. And it wouldn't push, so I thought maybe it was supposed to be like that. Well, I took it all apart, took out that screw, took out this little thing that holds this, took it all apart, cleaned it. That little metal tab there that holds the wire circuit board in, I guess you could say, was all bent. So I rebent it back into shape, and now it works fine. So then what I did was I, of course, immediately came over and tried to start it. Let me get you guys involved here. Come on, focus. So I decided, well, it's not going to start with the kickstand up or down, so we'll just try. And nothing happened. And then I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to grab this clutch, even though I could have sworn there was no freaking wires coming out of here. So then I grabbed that and boom. That's what it was, unfortunately, the whole freaking time. It was the damn clutch sensor. It's got one of those freaking chingaleras that tells you it's in gear or keep you from starting it in gear. I don't know. Anyways, I probably could have had it turn over from the very get-go had I just pulled in the clutch. I'm going to pretend like it wouldn't have, though, because of that start button. So now that I've done the start button, now it'll start. Let's go ahead and in a split second, thanks to movie magic, I'll put this all back together the way that I found it. Maybe, probably better, a little better than I found it. And we'll get an IV bag hooked up to the carburetors, and maybe we'll pull a spark plug first, see if it has spark, and then we'll put the IV bag on, and then we'll see if we can just get it to run. All right, everything is back together enough to check for some spark. So I put the cluster back together and the little side cover over on the other side where the clutch mechanism is, put that back on with the kickstand switch. And we're gonna turn off some lights. I gotta hook up this spark plug first. Where'd I put them? Here we go. And then we'll see if we can get some spark. If we get spark, we could add some gas and see if we can get some magic. So what we'll do, try to set this up somewhere where it'll stay on its own without me. Come on, buddy. Just stay right there. All right. Let's get you guys kind of keyed into that little area there. Should we just zoom you in? Wow, my goodness gracious. All right, it's really bad lighting, so the footage is going to be really pixelated, but let's just stick it out and see what happens here, guys. All right. Contact. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you see it? One more time. Nice. Okay, it's a nice orange spark, which is not the best, but I don't care. It's a spark, right? So what we'll do is we'll assume that all the rest are in perfect condition also, and hope this doesn't zap me for no reason when I grab it. And then let's just hook up the gas real quick and give it a little zappy zap, and let's see what happens. I gotta go pick up kids already in a little bit, and so I just kind of want to see this or hear this thing pop off a little. Let me get the bladder hooked up and then I'll get back to you. All right, I've checked that it had oil, and it does in fact have oil in the crankcase, and the oil looks pretty fresh. I put the spark plug back in and the spark plug boot back on. I couldn't just hook up the bladder because this thing is so blasted out that my little nipple won't fit in there, so I just fed it until it seemed like it had some gas in there. I really don't know what else to do. I could try spraying some flammable stuff in the airbox since we've got no screen or no filter. Just right into the carbs, huh? Let's do that. And I don't really have the right stuff, so we'll just use carb cleaner. Make sure the chokes are off, throttle's open. Okay. Choke on. All the way. Clutch in. Here we go. Oh, yes. Oh. Voila! Oh my goodness. We did it. We got it running. Actually, let's put some more gas in. You guys can see what I was talking about. How I'm doing this little operation here. I had this stand, but it didn't work because it's not high enough. So, let's put this in here. Probably take a little bit because there's 4 flow bowls. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I see some coming out somewhere. That was an overflow. Okay. All right, you're done. Should I do the right thing and let it air out a bit so we don't start a fire? Let's see how bad we got. Oh, there's nothing. She can't burn. Okay, so we got chokeroo on. Key on. Did I even start you guys back up yet? Yeah, you're running. Okay. I'm talking to myself. Contact. Oh, yeah, she's hungry. Let's put chokes off a little. All the way. Oh, yes. That battery just doesn't seem like it's getting as much juice out of that charger as I need. I'll give her a little more amps. Got that headlight just won't turn off. Horn definitely works though. That's cool. Nice. I'm gonna get carbon monoxide poisoning here in a sec. All right, everybody. Pretty big success with this, I'd say. I think all we gotta do now is get it running a little better, clog up some of the vacuum leaks, and then back brake and go for test drive. So I'm gonna go take care of some stuff I gotta take care of. I'll get back to you in a sec with some new updates. It's the next day, and I just got a little bit of time today, so I'm trying to see if I can get something happening back here with the brakes. I was able to get the brake light switch working, which was pretty easy. I just took this off and then wiped the corrosion off of the prongs and then put the female back on. And voila, we got brake lights now. The next thing I'm working on is the rear brakes. I figured if I could just get the rear brakes to work, then at least I could drive it, right? So this was empty. I put some fresh stuff in after I wiped it out with a paper towel. And what I'm going to do is hook up a vacuum pump that draws a vacuum as I squeeze this pump, and it puts pressure, negative pressure in the canister. And the other end of that you hook up to your brake bleed, and then you crack it open and it'll create a vacuum through the system, so that way it draws the fluid through and it's a lot easier to bleed. So anyways, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hook all that up real quick and we'll see if we can get some brakes. I was able to get the fluid through, guys, and we have success. I now have back brakes. So that's marvelous. It was so easy, and everything went so well that I feel like the person must have emptied all the fluids out before they left this sitting, because I don't know where all the fluid would have went. It built up pressure, there's no leaks, and there wasn't all the usual grit and clear, chunky, weird stuff from the old stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get these opened. Okay, so I got the front left side caliper bled, and it wouldn't work with my vacuum pump for some reason, so I had to go back to the old school way. It kind of got a little bit out, but eventually I just went to my regular way of just hand pumping it and then breaking the bleeder open and closing it real fast and doing that until I got it out. And then I went over to this slave cylinder, whatever the heck that is for the fork, and that bled itself real easily. And then I came over to this side, and this brown caca started coming out. So I thought I would get you guys involved. Before I started everything, I came up here, and actually this had a little bit of that weird crystally powder stuff where the brake fluid dries up into that. So I cleaned that out with some brake fluid cleaner, or some brake cleaner, paper towels, and then I got my gasket remover and got all that corrosion off that was all built up inside it on the lip. Got some fresh fluid in, so you can see it's actually working now. I gotta put some more in. And then I cleaned up the lid and the grommet, whatever this thing's called, that little rubber deal. And anyways, I just figured I would go ahead and let you guys see fun stuff's happening. A whole bunch of weird mystery fluids are coming out of this. In case you guys don't know about this trick, when I bleed brakes, instead of just letting the crap come all over the place and ruin everything, not that it matters on this bike, but what I've formulated is this really tough to build invention, and it's basically just a vinyl tube of two different sizes. This size here is just big enough to fit over that thing real snug, and there's not even any point to have the smaller one. I don't even know why I made it that way, but it's kind of neat because when you're done, you can always stick the dirty in and shove it into that side, and it just makes a big circle that you can hang up on your tool shelf. And then that stuff doesn't just drip, you know. Anyways, enough blabbity blabbing. Let's top off a little bit of this. It's tough when I'm videotaping because I'm tempted to watch the screen, but I find that if I watch what's on the screen, then I end up just doing stupid stuff. So it's like watching yourself in the mirror, you know, while you're trying to do something and everything's backwards. That makes sense to anybody? Can you guys even hear me? All right, so get your ojos all fixed in on that. Is this okay or what? Do I need to zoom it out like that? Probably. Yeah, that's better. And we'll build up some pressure and we'll see what kind of interesting crap comes out of this. Yeah, that's pretty nasty stuff right there. So what we're going to do is just pump this out until it gets a little bit cleaner looking in there. And if you don't know like how to do this stuff, then, well, basically my hand is up squeezing the brake, slowly open and closing it until it gets tight. And then I hold it down, and while I'm holding it down, I'm going to open this. And when I loosen that a little, the fluid squirts all through, and the lever up on the perch, the lever collapses. And as soon as the lever collapses, I tighten this back up. And what it's doing is it's forcing all the fluid out, and hopefully all the old stuff, the dirt, and the air. So it's starting to get a little clearer now. Uh-oh. Oh, damn it. We got an air pocket just sucked in. Yeah, that's the thing that's tricky, is you got to keep feeding the reservoir up top while you're doing this, or you just get air all back in there like I just did, and then you have to basically go all over again until you get the air bubble back out the bottom. But it is starting to get firm and the fluid's starting to get clear. So I can't imagine this is very interesting, but over here there's another bleeder. After I do this one, I'm going to come over here and do that same thing. And then I'll just turn it back on, or maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Well, guys, it's been a few days since I last turned on the recording device. A few things have happened. One day I came out this week and tried to get the bike to run just off the fuel bladder and see if I couldn't get things adjusted and just get confirmation that the carbs are fine. Unfortunately, as soon as I tried to do anything, the carbs wouldn't take any more gas, and as soon as I try to put any in, they shoot out of the overflow tubes. So my thought was maybe there's too much gas in the floats already, maybe they're full, but it had been many days, so they should have gone down a little. So the bike won't start unless I spray in some carb cleaner into the air box, and then it'll fire up for a second. So I know it's a fuel delivery issue. So it looks like I'm gonna have to go ahead and take those guys off after all. You might be able to detect my disdain in my voice, but I don't like taking off these multiple carb banks when they got an air box that you can't take off. Just one of those things where, you know, you get better as you do it more often, but because I try to not do it ever, I don't get better at it. But there's barely any room to get the air box to come back after I take out the toolbox and the battery box. I can barely get this to come back. Hopefully we can get that off of the lips, and then we can bend those up or down to get them off of these guys. And then we can go ahead and take the carbs apart and clean them, do it the right way. I tried real hard to just get this thing to just run and not do too much on it. But then I ended up realizing the petcock was tough, so I spent some money. I bought a petcock from Amazon. And then when I took the other petcock off and cleaned the gas tank out, I realized it was super nasty. So I went ahead and I'll insert the photos here so you guys can see how gross the tank is. But if you look, the underside of the tank had this weird nastiness. And the top side had this horrible clear coat that somebody had tried to sand off with like 32 grit sandpaper. And you probably saw the picture I posted, but it's got all these horrible scratches. So anyways, I went ahead and just thought for some reason I should just sand it and then clear coat it. Yeah, it's better now. It's not the right way to do it, but I did that yesterday. Let's go out, take a look. I'll show you guys. Take a look into the paint shed. So unfortunately all these weird dots were underneath the clear coat that was on this blue part of this decal, so I couldn't get that off. So it's kind of a starry themed decal, but now we got some shine. And let me grab this light, and you can see it did have some pearl. I don't know if it shows up, but there's like a little bit of pearl in the white. Unfortunately, the crafty feller that did all this didn't leave any of that pearl, so there's just metal and white and a couple of runs somewhere. Nope, that's not a run. That's just stuff. This side actually is pretty cool. That definitely looks like some beautiful starry night. This one, the clear coat had all come off except for these couple little pieces and whatever. I just cleared it all in. So, you know, at least it's shiny now. So anyways, that's where we're at with things. Now I'm going too far with everything. And yes. So that's how I keep getting into these messes with all these bikes, is I just want to keep doing more and more. This one today, what we're going to do is we're going to take off the carburetors, and I'm going to turn off the camera, and I'll go do all that real quick, and we'll see what we see when we see. Well, I did the deed, and that was a pain in the butt. That might have been one of the toughest ones I've ever had to do in my life. But I finally got them out, as you can see. So if anybody else out there has one of these bikes, which is impossible. I think there was probably only like 100 of these bikes made for 1 year. So if you ever met somebody that had this issue, that knew somebody one time that had an uncle's dog that liked treats from the guy that's neighbor had this bike, this is how you get it out. And every step of the way, you gotta, these guys trying to get wrapped in everything. The choke dam cable, throttle cable, getting tied on everything. There was a breather hose that wanted a piece. There's a clutch cable, he wants a piece. And they don't want to let go of the carbs. I think they're probably best friends. Been together since they were a child. Whew. Oh, it's a good thing that was on time lapse, because I like to run a child-friendly show here, and the words that were coming out of my mouth were not for kids' ears. You know what's really amazing is with all that anger and, with all that gentle persuasion, I don't think anything broke. Oh. Look at all of those are still fine. What's up with this? What is this weird little metal thing? Oh, yeah, well that's broke, huh? It turns out they have a metal insert inside that makes them super tough. Well, I just ate those words. Remember how I was just saying nothing got messed up? Something interesting was the carbs had an O-ring. Did you guys notice that? A couple of you did. So that's something I've never seen before. What a horrible, horrible place to have to put carbs in and out of. You know, if I was an engineer, I would have figured out probably some way to have gotten the boots off. Like maybe put a lip on there, and then this rubber boot has, 2 bands on it. I know there's already enough bands everywhere, but put 2 on there so you can undo them and take the boot. Maybe and shove it farther up the carb so it has that. I don't know. I think if I was ever going to do a bike, I would probably try to shove them all in a plenum to one carb. Cars do it, and cars seem to be okay. But here is the O-rings. Check that out. So it's kind of a neat thing, Maybe that'll help stop the air leaks. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just tear them all open, see what we can see. So far, things aren't looking good. None of the slides move at all. So it's kind of neat that we got the bike to start at all, but I'm just really hoping the diaphragms are okay. Those are probably the only part that's going to be unobtainable. So let's go ahead and get into that, and then I'll put you guys back on at some point. I don't know. I'm not really a videographer or some sort of a TV star like you guys all think. I'm just literally Lyle in my garage. So, I don't even know why I didn't hit stop. Let's hit stop, and then I'll get back to you guys in a bit. The carburetors came apart pretty easily, and they weren't too bad. So I got some gas, been cleaning them up with some gas. And there's a couple of the float bowls that were pretty bad. And there's a couple that were pretty good. So I'm going to get that out with the gas and get most of the dirt off. And then I'll run to the ultrasonic. So far 3 of these have stuck slides. So I got to get those apart before it goes for the bath. That one I got freed up. There are some rubber plugs on the bottom. So I can't use carb cleaner because carb cleaner will eat those up. So anyways, I'll continue on. The carburetors are cooking and things are going pretty well. I got 2 of the slides out of the 4 so far. I'm just waiting for it to get all the way up to temp before it'll really start to get rid of the junk. Well, that was happening. I thought I'd wipe up some of this oil and debris in this little gully. There's still plenty in there. I didn't do that much, but these little fittings here were loose, And I assume it was just gushing oil because there was like a pool of oil in there. I left most of that, but where you can see, I cleaned. So in the end, I'll do a power wash and get rid of all of this junk. I'm trying to save it a little dirty so that way the power wash will have, you know, a more dramatic effect for you guys. But I did come in here and wipe off some stuff. I was trying to get the air box out, and I don't think you can get this air box out. It seems like you have to remove all of the suspension and the motor and everything to get out the air box. I think the air box is the first thing they put in the bike. And let me show you why I think these strange thoughts. So if you look way back there, there's a breather hose connected to the bottom of the box. See it moving? And I thought that was getting hung up. But then I realized if you look behind the breather box is this weird long bolt. And up above that is all this crazy bracketry that goes to this long pole that doesn't have any way of removing it. It's stuck to the whole damn frame. And on the other side of that is that damn plastic tab right there with the hole in it. And that's all connected to the air box. And as you come forward, it hits that pole there. So, anyways, I've been get out of the way. I've been finagling with this forever, and the problem is you can't go up any higher because the touch is there, you know? So there's no way to get this air box out. And on top of all that, this is triangular shaped right here, so it won't even come through the hole there. Oh, it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating is wanting to point, but I can't because I got to hold the light and the phone. See, this is that bracket that goes all the way across from the right to the left. And it's part of all the frame to have the suspension stuff. And I could take that bolt out there, but that's not the one. It's this cross member here. So I don't know what I'm going to do about the air filter, guys. There's supposedly in all of the parts fish diagrams, there's like a little cylinder kind of metal insert that goes into here that fastens into that clip there and these two holes here with the GIS or the Phillips looking screws. Maybe 10 mils, I don't know. And I can't find anything on the internet. I can't find any photos of it, but all I can find is that replaceable sock filter that goes on the metal piece that I'm missing. So there is a screen in there. I do have some uni filter stuff. I think I'm just going to have to cut and silicone a little piece of something there. I don't know. I can't run pod filters. I don't like doing pod filters because, you know, it messes everything up with the airflow and the vacuums on the CV carbs. But I can't get a filter on this, and I can't get the damn box out. So this is nuts, guys. I cannot believe that they would build this frame with this in here. There's got to be a way, and I just can't figure it out. So anyways, I'll report back in a minute. I was indeed able to get the carbs apart. And they put up a little bit of a fight, but not too bad. As you saw in the pictures, I should have already posted, there was a little bit of crud in the bottom of the float bowls, and every float valve was completely seized. So I don't understand how it was able to run as well as it was before, but I knew that the float valves were seized because that gas, like I was saying earlier, wouldn't go down the pipe. And I even gave some taparoos with the wood handle of a hammer. Anyways, I digress. I was able to get this stuff apart. Had a couple of the valve seats and the needles stick really bad. I ended up cooking these for about maybe 10 hours in my ultrasonic. Probably ran them about maybe 10 different 30-minute sessions over that 10-hour period. Finally got everything to give up all their parts. These are really, really nice carburetors. So I'm very fortunate to have gotten this bike, especially for free. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it was free. all the diaphragms, can that focus? There we go. All the diaphragms are still really good. And it is freezing out here. Well, it's not freezing, but it's 52. And you can see that's still moving. So for those of you guys know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. I'm going to go through and finish the rebuild by polishing everything and shining everything up nice so that way those deposits don't get sticking right away. And I got a carb kit that's coming. Unfortunately, they don't appear to make anything for this model of bike. Nothing. There's no repops on anything. They don't even make the carb kits, no gas kits, nothing. But I know how motorcycle companies work, and they like to use the same carbs for as many bikes as possible. So I'm hoping that stands true because I bought some gs700 carb rebuild kit, or it might have been 750, I don't know. But everything looked the same. Of course, the ad doesn't show like the jet numbers, so I assume the jet numbers will all be different. But hopefully I can get maybe some flowable gas kits. These weird rubber stoppers here, I'm hoping that those will be the same because I really don't want these in here. These are old, and this one right here got a lot of the carb cleaner acetone on it, and it's ready to give up the ghost. I know it. So I'm hoping I'm going to get a few parts, especially the valve seat and the valve needles. That's what I really bought the carb rebuild kit for. Everything else looks beautiful on these. I got in a little bit farther on this than I wanted. There was an issue getting the windscreen off. You remember how it was brown? So I wanted to take off the windscreen and refresh it, sand it, and then clear coat it. And unfortunately, somebody had lost some of the original hardware and used some random thin little tiny like 4-inch long machine bolt. And because they didn't use the nut that's in the frame piece underneath this, that's welded in. I'll show you that. You see that metal frame bracketry that has all the nuts welded on? So it just went through, and it was like that one. And I couldn't reach because of this piece here was blocking me from being able to reach the nut. So I had to take the whole nose piece off and be able to reach it with that. It's always kind of funny to see what people will do, like, was this person that owned this bike in the middle of nowhere on an island and there was no hardware stores? Or did they just have no patience? Or were they just a little kid? Because when I was young, that's exactly how I did everything. I would just find whatever I could to shove in a hole to hold it. The clear coat came out pretty neat on this. We got some of the patina look up here. Got a run here. Don't tell anybody about that. I don't know if you remember, but it was butt ugly, and somebody had tried to sand off the rotting clear coat, and they just hit it with like 36 grit. And so I went through and I flattened all those spots and got those at least sealed in. That one looks like it might even have some rust, so yippee on that. Look at this cool little, I don't know, it's like a nighttime desert scape or something. We got some mountains with some lights on it, some trees, and a dark mountain there, and then the starry night. I wish I could do that intentionally. I have no idea how that even happened, but the clear coat came out really nice on this. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's see if we can get some reflections for you guys. You can also, if you look at the reflection, you could see my orange peel, which is really pretty good for just right out of the gun. No cut and buff. Yeah, what else do I need to tell you guys? Gotta be quick. Time's ticking. Oh yeah, I took off the little turn signal brackets that were really ugly, and I sanded those all up and painted them. Here they are. So I got those, look nice. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, and I got some turn signals. So we're going to put some turn signals on. Kind of mock mounted one already. It's this little tiny thing here. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put the carburetors back together and finish all that up and then I'll probably turn it on and blah, blah, blah a little bit. And then we got the battle of trying to get them back in. And then once the carbs are back in, everything else can just go back on. I'm just kind of waiting until the carbs get in before I put everything else back together. So let me go ahead and turn off the camera, get this done probably today or tomorrow because the carb kit isn't coming until this afternoon. And then I'll turn it back on and let you know. Well, we had pretty good success with the carburetors. I hooked them up into my vise, plumbed them up to my fuel bladder or the IV bag thingy, and nothing leaked, surprisingly. As I had mentioned previously, the most concerning spots were going to be those bridge points between the carburetors where the fill tube goes from the main pipe. And all those were fine. I was able to use a lot of pieces from the Amazon China kit, carburetor rebuild kit. This was on Amazon. It was 39 bucks. It was for the 1980 to 83 Suzuki gs700es, maybe, I don't know, or gs850. I think it was 800 and 850. The carbs are the same. This kit came with floats that are the same. I'm not saying they're good, but they're the same size, and the diaphragms and pretty much everything. The main things that I was gonna try and use were the needles and seats, as I said before. All of the seats were really nice, and it came with the O-rings for the seats. But one of the needles was smashed in, and the pin wouldn't come out at all. And I'll put that picture in right here, so you can see the craftsmanship of China. So what I did was I took one of the old needles and I stuck it in that seat over here on one of these outside carbs. And the old needles, the original ones were a little bit longer, like 12 millimeters, and the new ones were only 10. So I just went through and I redid the valve, or I redid the float height. The float height on these are 22.4 millimeters, 22.4, in case there's anybody out there that's also doing one of these. That seems kind of impossible because I don't feel like there was maybe but a few thousand of these made. And surprisingly, there's nothing on the internet about this. So this might be the first video ever about this bike. I don't know. We'll find out. So pressing on here, I also used the float gaskets, or the float bowl gaskets. Did I say that already? I don't know. And then what else was I able to use? There were some other pieces I might have been able to use, like the rubber stoppers. But the rubber stoppers that were in these were already plugged up and stuck in there. And I was afraid if I popped them out, they'd be the wrong size. And seeing that I couldn't find a rebuild kit anywhere in the universe for this set of carbs for the 700ES, I didn't want to risk it. So I didn't put the new plugs in. But, you know, we bench synced it. It didn't leak. So I think we're good to go. I did hook up the vacuum lines, or sorry, the overflow lines. All the vacuum ports were already capped off, and I'm going to leave them like that because I don't believe that there's any of those canisters in the tailpiece. The tailpiece seems like it's just a hollow shell of what it used to be. We got some new hose for the gas intake. I use this stuff from the CMS NL.com website. This is really good stuff. I can't remember what it is. I think its inner diameter was 6 and the outer was like 10, but it's super thick, super burly. So as long as this carb is never used with ethanol, these will last forever. Also replaced that one vacuum line that has to open up the fuel cock or the petcock. So we got everything all squared away on that. I'm going to go ahead and try my best to get them put in. I'm not going to show that because it's not going to be the greatest thing ever. I will say that for those of you that are doing this for yourself, if I remember correctly, I had to have the part that goes into the intake side of the engine, I had to pop it up, and then I moved the carbs out, I think, to the right. So I'm going to be coming in from the right, pushing it to the left with these intakes up, trying to line up the intake side of the carburetor with those boots first on the airbox, and then I'll slide these down into the exit of the carburetor, which is the intake manifolds. And I think that's the only way that these will go in and out. I took off the side cover to get that clutch damn wire out of the way, the cable, And then I have the battery box out of the way so I can get that 1/2 inch of play on the air box. And so I'm going to say a prayer, cross some fingers and some toes, and then just ram them home. I don't know if you can see, but I did polish everything. I got all of the hardware all polished up. And yeah, I got even all the brass pieces that I reused. I cleaned them all, and the axles for the floats, polished all those. And that way there's just less chance of crud building up. All right, that's a lot of blabbing. I'm gonna go ahead and put those on, and then we'll get really buzzing here, and then hopefully hear this thing start soon. All right, guys, that actually didn't take as long as I had thought. As long as I thought it would. I got the carburetors back in. It was actually really easy. Not really easy, but it was easier than taking out. I think it's because I removed the battery box so the air box could come back this little like 1/2 inch, and that made a world of difference. Part of me says that I should probably have tried to find intake manifold boots, but it's too late. We're already here. Let's go ahead. I got the gas hooked up. I got the battery charger hooked on. We got things all ready to go. Let's figure out a way for me to not be in your way, but then also be able to touch stuff over here. Okay. Should we do choke a little? Let's try. Okay. Let's try choke again. It's almost like we're not getting any spark now. Was there something I disconnected? Yeah, there was a lot of somethings. My vacuum line, we got that. Got the clutch pulled in. Just can't believe that it won't just do something. Okay, now the battery's dying, great. All right, well, this wasn't a good idea. I'm gonna pull a spark plug and see if we're getting sparks, or maybe everything's screwed up now. I'll check back in a bit. I was indeed able to get the bike to run better. It turned out all the problems it was having, well, most of the problems, was from the lack of the air filter element. There's supposed to be a little snorkel, and then underneath that has a little cage that the filter element goes on. And typically you lube those up with some filter oil, and it puts a lot of restriction on the airflow. When the engine compresses and has the intake, it sucks in, and if this is just all open willy-nilly, it just breathes air, and if there's no restriction, it's not going to suck gas. So I put my hand over it, started it, and it fired right up, but then it wanted to rev too high because it's getting too much gas. Take my hand off, it dies. So I put a t-shirt here, it started right away, but still was too much choke. So I ended up taking a bunch of uni filter material, and it was basically a whole pack, and rolled it up real tight, sprayed it, first with the oil, the filter oil, rolled it up, and then shoved it in the air box, mainly up against the front where that screen is, and then left a little tiny hole so that way I could put this little air filter here that was just some China filter that I was going to put on some other project I never used, and that put enough restriction on so that way it'll suck the gas out of there. And yeah, it seemed like it idled fine. I won't know if it needs the carb sync until I drive it. Right now I'm doing the blinkers. I got these off of Amazon for 20 bucks. They're metal and they seem really nice. LED. In case you don't have this wire or the shop manual, there's a brown and a black and white just hanging here that go to nothing. And the black and whites or the black with the white stripe is the ground. And the greens are the front and the back. The light green is the blinker for the right side or the passenger side. And the gray is your constant 12 volt for the front. So that way it stays amber when you're driving. The left is going to be solid black is the left side blinkers. The white with the black or the black with the white stripe is ground still. And then you also have a gray over here wherever it's at for the driver's side. So light green, passenger side, black, driver's side. And last thing I got to get going is I have to figure out on the gas tank. It has two vacuum little vents. One, I think I could just cap. That's just a vacuum line that went back to that, I don't know, the black secret box of vacuum goodness that I don't have. And the other one goes to the fuel reader. What's that called? I can't think of the word right now. I don't know. The thing that goes to the fuel gauge. And there's a vacuum line on it, and I don't know where the heck it goes. So luckily I got the manual, and we'll check with El Manuel there and see what he says. And then I think after that we just got to put the plastics back on. I have one that's broken here. I don't think I'm even going to try to fix. And as soon as I get all that done, we'll put the camera back on, show off the bike, and then hopefully get a little ride in. This is probably the fastest bike I've ever owned because it's 80 horsepower. So I'm real excited, and hopefully I can take you guys on a little trip on a rocket ship. Anyways, I'll get some stuff done and then I'll check in. I got the turn signals all mounted and wired up. I also got all the wire rat's nest kind of tucked up a little and hidden. And then back here, I kind of screwed up a few times. There's a little tiny hole and the nut is really small. So when I made all these extenders to it, I accidentally trapped the nut on there. So I had to cut all the wires off, pull the nut, or sorry, the washer. Yeah, it was the nut actually. The nut and washer off. And then I had to mount them. And then I could do all of this because once these clips were on here, it was too big for that little nut to get over. That makes sense? I don't know. Anyways, the wires were really, for the turn signal, had to come pretty far up to here. I wasn't expecting that, but I did make this little pigtail here that I'm awfully proud of. And best of all, we got turn signals. So let's check them out. These front ones have the running lights. And then fancy. And you can see I'm working in the back there too. But let's take a trip on back there and I'll show you. So you know it's not movie magic. These are really working. Ow, you bastard. So there is a license plate. I'm probably supposed to cover up. I don't really care. It's pretty neat. 2 wires. They do all that fanciness. And feel pretty strong. Like they might be able to take a tap or two from my leg. And I might not just rip them completely off. But best of all, they got these front running lights, which are like little LED headlights. Super bright, melt your eye stuff. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to put something over the battery there to cover the positive terminal. We'll get to work on the seat and the gas tank. And then I think, oh, dang it, I got to put that on too. That shouldn't take too long. Okay, we'll put the side cover on. And everything else I said. And we should be all ready to go. here's the final result, everybody. Still got a little bit of work to do. I believe it had some blue decals originally on that piece. But I got a lot of the stuff cleaned up nicely. Just take you around here. Windscreen looks way better. I'm still a little upset that my clear didn't really come out as transparent as it should. But man, that sure looks great. I also redid the hardware with some new fasteners and rubber grommets and these little, I don't know what they're called, stanchions or echelons or whatever the fancy term is for those. Cleaned up some of the hardware. There was a bracket missing down here that held the two halves of the nose cone together, and it was missing, so you can't see it, but you see where the hardware is, right there. And that really helped the structural integrity of this thing. I also put a little bit of some WD-40 on a rag and wiped it. And in case you don't know, that's the trick that the dealerships use to make old stuff look shiny. I got the seat strap off, and I've actually got all of the pieces for it. But I'm out of time. I got to go to Oregon for my parents, or to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. So I'm just trying to hurry up and get this done so I can edit this video and get it posted while I'm up in Oregon. So anyways, let's get in here. It's got pretty cool things. It's got, the shock has a dampener adjuster, and then there's like a rebound adjuster or something fancy, I don't know. The exhaust pipe cleaned up a lot. It actually looks still really kind of foggy now that I'm looking at it. Oh, it's got some scum on it that I didn't rinse off. Working our way around. Got really fortunate. Not very often that you get a free bike that doesn't have any major issues. I got the exhaust pipes pretty shined up here on the headers. And yeah, we got a lot of stuff cleaned up. The fairings had a broken bracket on this one tab here, so I got to use a little zip tie action there. Both the brakes, front and back, are working great, despite what this looks like. I assume that there was just a major brake spill there. Everywhere that there's a brake reservoir, there's some leaky shenanigans, like this right here. So I don't know if this is going to start leaking or what. It hasn't so far. Fingers crossed it'll stay that way. Pretty fancy little dashboard. The fuel gauge, oil temp gauge, everything worked. I was very, very excited about that. And the side stand light goes off when you start driving. So I don't know what's up with that. I painted this plastic and sanded that. It had a bunch of scuffs. I don't know if you guys remember. Oops, I've wiped something on there now. Great. Also cleaned up the gas cap and painted that. And we got our hand controls. Everything works there. Pretty neat hand control. High beams is up, regular is down, and then you got your turn signal all in the same toggle. Got your horn here, choke here. And then over to this side, we got a start button, and we got our kill switch, throttle, the usual. And yeah, everything's looking pretty nice on the bike. Really like these turn signals. And back tire, it's got a lot of tread, even though it's probably close to 30 years old. It's a Bridgestone. And I don't know what model that is. 130/70 on a 17. Bridgestone. I don't know. The model's somewhere hiding up there. Excuse me. The front tire has some cracks, some dry rot action. It's kind of tough to see, but right in there. So I really probably shouldn't have taken it out and just done what I just done, but I done it, so it's too late now. Yeah, that was the only thing I was worried about when I was driving, was that front tire going out. That's pretty much it. I think this pretty much wraps up this episode. All right, guys, I guess this is the conclusion to the 1985 Suzuki gs700es. And it was a pretty fun project. Probably took a little longer than I had hoped, but that's how these things go. Pretty amazing bike to drive. It has 80 horsepower. I don't know if I'm getting all 80, but holy moly, this thing cooks. I don't really ride fast bikes. I got a Harley Sportster, the baby one, and it puts out 50 horsepower. So 80 horsepower is like nutso. When you go, if you just give it the beans, it feels like it, oh my goodness, like you're gonna flip over backwards. I did take it out to the racetrack behind my house, the quarter-mile strip that I use from the city kindly built. And it would definitely, by the end of the quarter mile, I was at 90. I wasn't really even flooring it all the way because I got scared. Probably because of the front tires in the back of my mind with that crack. And, you know, really you shouldn't be doing anything with the front tire cracked, but especially on a heavier bike going over 50, right? A couple of things that I wish Suzuki would have done different is, main thing really is just that the parts would be easier to get. And the throttle, or the idle screw. The idle screw is right in the middle of the carburetors, and it's tucked up in this little area that my big mitts couldn't even really get to. And I tried to turn it down after the bike warmed up, and it just melted my hand. I got all these burns and blisters, but that's okay. I don't really care too much. The one thing I care about, though, is that the bike isn't able to idle really low right now without dying because of that air filter, which is ultimately because it has CV carbs. If I got some just regular slide carbs, like a dirt bike carb set on there, this thing would be amazing. It's really tough to find the parts, as I've mentioned, and I don't know if I'll ever find this air filter element. So for now, that uni filter stuff I shoved in the airbox is going to have to do. Unfortunately, it's still a little too drafty, so I can't get the idle down, you know, around 1,000. The book says 1,200, give or take 100. So my idle basically has to sit around 3,000 to 2,500, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. It's a free bike, right? I shouldn't have a problem selling the bike. Hopefully somebody out there, maybe one of you guys, knows about this bike, or maybe has another one that they could use for donor parts to finish this one, or the other way around. And you know, hopefully somebody will buy this and love it. I did most of the work, I think, already, as you just saw. And you know, there's still a little bit more work to go on it. If you were to find one of these, I would probably say, unless you're getting it for free or real cheap and it has all the parts, don't do it. The fact that there's no parts for this bike make it a real pain in the butt. I did find that the gs700e from 1985 is the same exact bike, and any parts you find for that model will fit on this. It just doesn't have the nose cone and, I don't know, maybe some special features. Pretty neat bike, though. I had a great time riding it today, and puts a smile on your face. Oh my goodness, it is so scary to go that fast. All my streets around here, the neighborhood streets that I've never known were 90-degree turns. When you get going fast, those long turns turn into 90-degree turns. Pretty scary stuff. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope if you're working on something like this might have given you some pointers or some tips. I didn't really get into the engine on this, but you know, that's just kind of how it goes. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing good and your projects are doing well. God bless you guys. I'll catch you in the next one, as they say.